Hey guys, this is Jay Calder with Jay Unboxing with a fight preview for Brandon Figueroa versus Magsayo. And of course, before we get into this, would love if you guys went ahead and subscribed, gave this video a like, would greatly appreciate it. Love when you guys do that. So if you guys could go ahead and do that, of course, as well as give me your preview for this fight personally. Would love all that down in the comments section below. A little bit of fight info here. It's Brandon Figueroa versus Magsayo. As mentioned, this will be taking place at the Toyota Arena in Ontario, California, airing live on Showtime in the featherweight division. As far as this fight is concerned, my initial thoughts are pretty simple in many ways. I mean, it could be a really good action fight, which is something that we've been seeing a bit of abundance of in the 2023 calendar thus far. We're really only 2 months into this year thus far, and we've really gotten a couple of decent fights, some good knockout, decent matchups. I'm willing to bet that if you were to kind of compare the calendar from this point of this year to this point of last year, we are on a much better trajectory thus far. And I think this is a sort of fight that could definitely add to the stature of this year. Again, are they the biggest groundbreaking fights? Not necessarily, but it's boxing. Beggars can't always be choosers, unfortunately. And considering that this is a non-title fight, it's about as good as it could get. You ask yourself kind of, is there any chance that this fight is going to be boring? Quite frankly, I don't see it. At the very least, it'll be a good competitive fight between two strong-willed fighters that have quite a bit on the line that we're going to be getting into, of course, and they certainly have the opportunity here to take really the best step they can at 126 pounds against someone who's not been in the greatest form in either man. You have Magsayo coming off the loss to Ray Vargas, and you have Brandon Figueroa, who made a debut at 126 pounds last year, but didn't look all that scintillating like he once did at 122 pounds. So both men are in desperate need of kind of that big I'm here moment kind of fight, and they have the perfect opponent in front of them to be able to sort of perform that way against. They just have to be able to pull the trigger, so to speak. So in terms of my initial thoughts, that's kind of what kind of swam around my head. This is the perfect fight for them to build and propel themselves back onto the main stage at 126 pounds, and I think they'll both attempt to do that with all they have, which could make for a very compelling action-filled fight. And in terms of what's at stake here, I mean, obviously there's no title, so you don't have something so specific, so direct, so obvious, but there are certainly world title implications for two guys who have a name, who have action styles, and who are also beatable. Champions are going to be willing to face them as well. And again, if they can pull off a win against someone of their own caliber, so to speak, it definitely adds to their stock and allows for them to take that sort of step towards another title shot. And as mentioned again, both need this win. This is sort of a spot where if the guy loses, you really have to kind of wonder where they go. They're both coming off of recent losses. They're both looking for that kind of, again, that sign that they still have life at featherweight. This is what's at stake for both men. They have to be able to win this kind of fight. When you look at 126 pounds, there are a lot of decent names here. You have Ray Vargas likely coming back down to 126 pounds. You have Luis Alberto Lopez, Mauricio Lara, who are also titleists at the weight. You have so many names, even a guy like Lee Wood, Josh Warrington, names that are at 126 pounds that if you can get this win, you can set yourself up for some big fights. But without the win, you're in a little bit of deep trouble here. So there's a lot at stake, even if there isn't necessarily just a title on the line. That sort of world title level certainly is on the line in this fight. And for the winner, it's pretty obvious. Again, you're going to have a shot at another title coming up pretty short. It's not necessarily anything automatically lined up, but if you're a name that can get a win over another decent name, and you have all these other decent sized names at your disposal with titles on the line, you're just gonna be in line. It's the way it works in the sport. When there's not a dominant force in the division, fighters tend to work more together because they're trying to become that dominant force. And in order to do that, you have to knock off some of those other names. So a win certainly is putting that kind of possibility at the doorstep for the winner. And it's a chance to add another decent name to the resume. And that does, again, a couple of things. For the marketability side, of course, that's there and it can lead to those title shots, but it also might add a bit more confidence to two guys who might have had their confidence shaken a bit from recent performances. Now, again, I'm not trying to say they were complete crap or just, garbage in their most recent fights, but they have had some losses. Or a loss each, I should say. They both have had some lackluster performances. They're looking to bounce back from that in a bigger way. And again, that's what this fight can represent in terms of their confidence especially. It also keeps potential rematches alive for the people who have defeated them. For Figueroa, of course, that's Stephen Fulton, and for Magsayo, that's Vargas, as I mentioned. A loss pretty much puts that to bed, but if they can win, it at least makes something of a case for a potentially pretty lucrative rematch if they are to come to fruition. And for the loser, it really could be tough to come back from this. Again, I don't want to get overly dramatic and say it's over, hang them up. You know, they're still relatively young men, relatively fresh, though Figueroa has been in a few wars, but for the most part, they still have time on their side. The biggest issue really is just what the loss might signify in terms of their long-term prospects. For Figueroa, it especially is odd because it could mean he's kind of a man without a weight class. He really can't comfortably make 122 any longer, but at the same time, if he's not able to impose himself on a fight at 126 pounds, what does that really mean for his prospects in the sport? He's not going to get any more naturally bigger. This is the size he is. It really could be a problem for him moving forward. Conversely, for Magsayo, this would mean that he's been outboxed against Ray Vargas, and who's, again, an awkward fighter, but not necessarily the best boxer. And then it could mean that he's potentially outbrawled or outpunched against Brandon Figueroa. It's not a good sign because at that point, for Magsayo, what style do you impose? What fighters can you really be favored against at the very top level? When you're Magsayo and you have a win over Gary Russell and it looks impressive on paper, but you know there was an injury involved, and now you've lost the other two big meaningful fights in your career, really does put into question just how good you are at this very level. So they both certainly want to try and avoid, of course, being on the losing end of this fight because it really would bring into question just exactly what is the next step in their careers. But in any event, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. How do you view the fight? Who do you think wins? What do you guys think are sort of the kind of stakes for this fight? We'd love to hear that down in the comments section below. Of course, you can check down in the description box for my prediction for Brandon Figueroa versus Mark Magsayo. I would love if you guys check that out. And please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB. You can email me at jagunboxing@gmail.com. And of course, check out jagunboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, news, rankings, all that good stuff. Love if you check that out as well. And as always, until next time.